Hey there, Maricopa. This is Maria Poor. I am one of the Cultural Affairs and Arts Committee members for the City of Maricopa. And here today we have one of our local artists creating one of the beautiful signal box portraits. I'm here today with artist Veronica Lichtenstein, who created this beautiful mural. Veronica, what does this represent for you?
This is, when I was thinking about Maricopa and the kind of box I would want to paint, I just started to think about like what's one of the main activities that like people in my neighborhood do, and me and my daughter go bike riding all the time, especially around Halloween and Christmas time, to look at all the displays and just enjoy the weather during that season. So I wanted to make a mural of a joyful bike ride, and that's what it is. It's a blissful joy ride. This is part of our Super Bloom, and this is actually this street on Honeycutt, which was just like a month ago, was all blown up with these yellow trees and the green pieces out there. So it's just one of my favorites because it reminds me of the amount of fun times we had together going bike riding every night.
And this piece directly represents you and your family life and your family together. Describe that for us.
Absolutely. Like we love going on bike rides and going around the neighborhoods. We love getting picnics. We'll pick up Chipotle and then we'll just, find a spot under a tree and just hang out. And it's one of those things where she'll want to do it every night and she gets to talk about the end of her day and open up, and it's just a really fun event for us to do. And I think as I've been doing this piece and bike riders have come by, it's been fun to see families together see this and feel like they're being captured from Maricopa.
What does it mean to you to have this gorgeous public artwork up in your city?
Just the world. I'm so excited. I'm excited to have seeing the 9 other pieces that are going to be out there, just to see what everybody has and everybody's unique like fingerprint and art, and seeing what they're going to come up with. I'm just excited to see more of this throughout the city, because I think it just really brings out the community to life.
It does. Thank you so much for being a part of our public art initiative here in the city of Maricopa. Thank you so much for gifting our community with your talents. It's beautiful and something that people can really enjoy and last a really long time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey Maricopa, I'm Quinn Knoll, the Communications and Cultural Services Director. We're here today taking another look at the bridge that's going across the Santa Rosa Wash. This is part of the Sonoran Desert Parkway project, and I'm joined here by Carrie Osborne, the CIP Project Manager. Carrie, as you've been overseeing this, it seems like we were here just a few days ago or a couple weeks ago, but man, in a short amount of time, there's been a lot of changes here. Tell us about this stage that we're at.
Sure, Quinn. We've made quite a bit of progress. Since the last time we were here, we were working on the abutments and the center pier for the bridge, but now we've even started to install the girders. We've got about half of them in place right now. We have 20 of them to install total. They each weigh about 90,000 pounds, so it takes 2 cranes to lift them and to put them into proper position. After we get those installed by this weekend, then we'll begin to do the formwork and build the deck, which is what people will actually drive across. That'll be our next step for it. So we're well underway to completing the bridge over the wash.
Now, people that live in Santa Rosa Springs, they know the importance of this, but for the rest of the city, they might not realize how important this is, that normally and traditionally when it's rained, it's been a problem for people that lived in this neighborhood.
Yeah, anytime the wash flows with any velocity at all, we have to close the gates and shut the road down, which means that there's only one way in and out, and that's across the railroad tracks. So if a train is blocking the tracks, it makes it difficult, for the emergency vehicles to get in and out. So having a bridge over the wash means that there'll be 24-hour, constant access into the subdivision for those people that live in Santa Rosa Springs.
So after the girders are installed, next it's time to hit the deck, right?
Next time is to hit the deck and finish up the bridge.
If they haven't, people haven't seen in a little bit, we've got some images of the progress on the parkway itself. Tell us a little bit about what's happening over there.
Most all the curb and gutter now has been formed and placed along both lanes, eastbound and westbound, for the 2-mile stretch of the parkway. Beginning May 8th, we'll start paving on the eastbound lanes, and that should take probably about a month or so to finish the paving work on it. And we're still on track to get the project opened up to the public by the end of the summer.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Carrie, for giving us that quick update. Maricopa, hopefully that keeps you in
this area kind of here has changed because a while back they were talking about having some type of commercial transit first with walking paths all the way around.
So they can get out of here if they want to.
Because you got the church, and the church owns a bunch of property. But the Catholic Church, isn't the Catholic Church down this way? And they own a bunch of stuff next to Heritage, and yeah. And they've been going back and forth what they want to do with that. So. Thank you all for coming this evening. We have a little switcheroo for you. I'll be conducting the meeting. I'm an apprentice in training, so to speak, so I'm going to, with Ted's leadership here, we'll try to work through it. A quick announcement. This body also serves as the Transit Advisory Committee to the city, so we're going to put that hat on first and open that meeting and have a Transit Advisory Committee meeting with their agenda, and then we'll move on to the regular agenda for the Planning and Zoning Commission. So with that, I'd like to open the meeting of the City of Maricopa Transit Advisory Committee, Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 6 p.m. I'd like to have a roll call, please. Yeah.
Commissioner Juarez. Here. Commissioner Singleton.
Here.
Vice Chair Robertson.
Here.
Chair Yocum.
Here.
Commissioner Irving. Here. Commissioner LaFalle. Here. Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Vice Chair Robertson, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll be led by our invocation by Commissioner Irvin and by the Pledge of Allegiance with Ted Yocum. Please rise if you can.
All right. Father, we come again thanking you for another day, thanking you for what you have done for us, for your guidance, your support, and your love. As we go about our business today, let us remember what you've asked of us, to love you, love one another, and let our behavior be conducted that way. We ask all this in your name. Amen.
Call to the public. Procedures to follow to address the committee are: the committee requests that you express your ideas in 3 minutes or less and refrain from personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, a fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The committee chair will limit discussions whenever he or she deems such actions are appropriate for proper conduct of the meeting. At the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual members of the committee may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the committee and may ask staff to review a matter or ask that the matter be put on a future agenda. However, the members of the committee shall not discuss or take legal action on any matters during an open call to the public unless the matters have been properly noticed on the agenda for legal actions. So that'll take us to our agenda items. TRA 2303, public hearing, and we'll have a presentation from Tony with the Transit Department. Take it away, Tony.
Thank you. One of the things I'd like to ask for is omitting the fixed route loop, the last one of the day that starts at 4 o'clock. It's from 4 to 5. Currently, the driver is working an hour overtime every day. And I did a study to see if it would be better to take off the first loop in the morning or the last loop of the day. And the numbers came back that the last loop of the day had less riders and made more sense. So you'll see that little chart in the memo that I sent out. So we would like to ask to permanently omit the 4 to 5 loop for the fixed route. The other thing I'm asking for today is to change the direction of the route. Currently the route has a lot of left-hand turns and we cross over traffic. An example is when we leave the senior center, we go left on Smith Inky, and sometimes the bus is waiting a long time to have a break in the traffic to pull out, or we're creeping out and the buses aren't as fast as the cars due to the size of them and the heat, so sometimes the public will honk at the driver and think the bus is in the way. And so I did some research on that. You might have heard about UPS only making right-hand turns for safety and to be quicker. There's a QR code on here for the UPS article. And so we ran the route a couple times and did a demo. We just turned everything backwards so that we're making all right-hand turns, and we took about 10 minutes off of the route. So this will give the driver a chance to get a drink and use the restroom. Right now they can barely make the stops on time and keep the bus on time. So this will add a little bit of a relief for them, and as well as being safe. I think it is safer to be going right instead of trying to cross over traffic to be going left. So I'd like to ask for that. And I have a map on here. It's the same map that we have. The only thing that we're doing is reversing the direction so that we are making right-hand turns. And then I have a temporary map that we're just using until the east-west corridor is complete, because Farrell Road is closed, so we're not able to use that right now. But when that construction's done, we'll go back to the second map, the Met map I have on here. The blue schedule on the last page is the same route that we have now, but we're just running it in reverse direction and then taking off the last loop from 4 to 5. So that's what we're asking be approved this evening.
Are there any questions for staff from the committee? Yeah, I do. Go ahead.
Has anybody reached out to all these people to see what they think about this?
I did post a notice in the newspaper for the last 2 weeks, and no one has shown up tonight or given me any calls about it.
I mean, that's a sizable number to me, and I just worry that all of a sudden we're going to vote on it, and these people have no input or don't even know it's going to be changed. And that just sort of bothers me. Again, I understand why you want to do it, but I just worry about us inconveniencing our citizens for the sake of overtime or pay. If that many people are using it, I think it's an investment to keep it there. That's all I'm saying, because this seems to meet the need of the city, but I'm not sure it meets the need of the citizens. That's all I have.
The issue I ran into was this is how it was set up when we outsourced to Total Transit, and their driver that they had worked 10-hour days, no lunch, and then that hour at the end. And then when I took it over, I gave the drivers a lunch. I thought it was important that they have a break. But I still had that last hour that I need to cover, so they were working overtime. That driver is no longer with us, and the 2 drivers that we have are not able to work the extra overtime every day.
I understand that, but there's another solution to that. Just hire another person. Not you, but
Haven't got that.
I know you don't have the authority to. All I'm saying is that what we're doing is cutting out services to citizens when obviously you've shown the need that you need additional personnel. I guess I'm just putting that on a table as an option as opposed to cutting off services for citizens. That's all I'm doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Irvin. Any other questions? Commissioner Juarez?
Okay, I see both sides of the conversation here. The only thing I want to add to this conversation is we looked at June and we looked at July. Does the ridership change at all during the winter months or the spring months at all?
I think it is not consistent for the last few years because of COVID. I think the ridership went down. And so I tried to look at what our current numbers are. And I think it is a lot of the same people that are using it. I think there might be a little less in the summer for snowbirds, but for the most, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah, because if I understood correctly, if it does change and there possibly could be more people riding, say during the, let's call it the light winter months or the early spring months, then I think we're selling ourselves short in providing a service to the community. I would like to see if any way possible, we could look at some data, if it was collected over the past year, take a snapshot there, and then maybe make adjustments from those numbers right there. And at the same time, let's probably implement a better communication plan to our riders who depend on this, according to Commissioner Irvin there.
The other thing I want to say is that we do have the dial-a-ride up until 5. So if they needed to book a dial-a-ride, that would be open for them to do that if they were missing out on that last loop.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much the cost of dial-a-ride would affect the people that are currently taking the ride for one reason, to get the ride going around that we give right now, that we want to cut. I don't know if it meets their needs or not by schedule or by monetary needs or whatever. I think I would like to take a different approach. I'm not saying your approach is wrong, but I think let's take a bigger snapshot of what we're looking at and then make a decision from there.
Okay.
But good job.
Commissioner Singleton?
Yeah, so I had 2 questions. One on the proposed new route. When the east-west corridor is reopened, it looks like Copper Sky is being cut off of that drop-off point. Is that the case, or is Copper Sky still going to be a stopping?
Copper Sky is still on here. It's a yellow square on here, Copper Sky.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Those are all the stops. Yep.
And then my second question was along the lines of the 8 to 4. Is this temporary, or is this kind of you see this as a permanent solution? Because
for the hours of the route?
Yes, because I understand, yes, let's just hire another driver, but it's not always feasible. But I would like to have some plan of okay, yes, we're going to dial it back for 8 to 4 for X amount of time until we can request that extra driver, because we know 2 months' time right now. We don't know winter or early spring, and then we're just going to cut out, 79 people total, potentially. So yeah, I would just like to see or know if this is going to be a permanent solution in your book.
I am proposing it to be permanent. The drivers are already working Fridays, which most of the city doesn't work Fridays. So they are Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day. So I'd like to be consistent that they aren't required to work overtime every day.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yocum?
Just one question. Do you have any program in place where you get rider feedback?
Yes, we have a survey that's on our website.
And what do you think is the one most commented on area?
I think probably the highest comment I see is people want a bus stop in Tortosa.
I'm sorry.
That people would like a stop in Tortosa. We currently just have the dial-a-ride go there, but we don't have any time to add any additional stops right now.
Okay, thank you.
I have one follow-up question. This is an idea that just came up right now when you talked about surveys. Do we have staff available that could do a live survey, say 1 day a week? Somebody rides along with the drivers, actually reaches out and touches the people that are actually taking advantage of our service, and have a stock set of questions, and then we create our own survey from that live data right there? I don't know if that's possible or not, but that popped in my mind.
I can try to do that, but if I'm not in the office, I'm not answering the riders that are calling to book rides is the problem.
Yeah, because what I was thinking is sometimes we have people that don't have access to a computer or not computer literate, and so a website doesn't always capture all the data we need, and sometimes the data that we can't capture comes from people that actually need our service.
Right.
So just an idea.
Okay.
I do have, just a few months ago, the commission was invited to take a ride on your buses, and on the bus rather, and I thought that was very interesting and somewhat informative. There were several students, I think that I counted, that I was able to talk to. As when they came on the bus, I would go out of my way to talk to them. And all of them, every one of them was quite thankful that the bus was available. They made it very clear they did not have a car. They couldn't afford the car. They were students. They were 14, 15, 16. And I think that's demonstrative of your providing a nice public service. I just thought I don't know if I got that feedback back to you, but that's what that was very refreshing for me.
Thank you.
Commissioner LaFalle?
I just had a follow-up question. Is there the driver, was there a driver that is no longer driving and this is what's creating the issue?
Yes.
So is that driver going to be replaced?
Yes, I started a new driver today. He had his orientation, and then he'll have 2 days of training, online training that's required from the FTA, and then we'll have him train for 2 full days with the other drivers to go together, and then I will ride with him for a day. So he's in the process of getting trained up, but he is not required to work the overtime.
So with that third driver, there was still the overtime?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a way to offset the schedule so that not everyone starts at the same time?
So currently I have one of the dial-a-ride drivers. They come in at 7:30. That gives them time to get fuel, do a pre-check, that kind of thing. And the first stop is at 8. And the other driver comes in at 8:30. Her first stop is at 9.
Okay.
So one of them gets off at 4:30 and one of them gets off at 5:30. So that was our way to extend it longer because I was getting some calls of people who wanted to be picked up later. So now we changed it so one dial-a-ride comes in later and stays later, but they both work 40 hours, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
And then the last one is the fixed route?
Yep.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, I know you said that you had put changes in the newspaper, is that correct? Yeah. Ever tried to bring literature on the bus to inform the public that your
Yes.
changes are coming?
I don't say changes are coming, but we put up notices when changes have happened or when we're going to be closed for holidays, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a QR code on all of the bus stops now, so people can just scan that code and sign up for an email, and that sends you all the changes or if the bus is closed for some reason.
Yeah, the other reason I bring it up is because the newspaper, a lot of times it gets lost and the public don't really see it that way, but if it's in front of their face, then they can.
Yeah, that
Thank
is my requirement that I'm following from ADOT, and I attach that as well. That is how they require us to communicate public hearings is by posting them to 2
I-
weeks in the
I have
newspaper.
one last question, because again, I don't want it to sound like I'm being critical of you. You're doing what you need to do as a manager. The question I would ask, if you had adequate staff and an adequate schedule, would you keep the route?
If we had more people, yes, but we are struggling, like, even if one of the girls calls in sick or wants a vacation
Yeah.
day, it's a real
And I
struggle.
guess that's my problem, having done thousands and thousands of schedules. When you do a schedule, you build in a relief factor. And you don't even have a relief factor in this, so I don't know. You're doing the best you can with what
I
you
have
got,
asked
and I applaud that.
backup.
All I'm saying is, you've been given a hand that doesn't have all the cards, and you're managing it. And that's the dilemma I have, because I certainly want to support you because you're managing with what you have, but you've been given an inadequate staffing pattern to meet the need of what your job is, which is not your fault at all. So I want to make sure you,
Agreed.
I very much support what
Yes.
you're doing. It's too bad, but this is all you can do is present what you're presenting, because what other choice do you have?
Kind of piggybacking off of that, and you don't have to necessarily answer now, you can send an email later, is what does that adequate staff look like in order to potentially keep this route? Like,
We are having a Plansit study as soon as we can, and they will tell us more. I did look up, I just Googled what cities with our population, how many buses should we have, and it's saying 6, and we have 1. And I do know the phone is quite busy every day. We are turning people away for the dial-a-ride, so there is a demand. We are just not able to help everybody. There's 75,000 people in Maricopa now, and 1 fixed route and 2 minivans picking people up.
Thank you, Tony. At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. If anybody would like to come up and address this issue, please come forward to the podium. We have one lady. If you could state your name and your approximate address, please.
Brittany Pizzola, 41160 West Somerset Drive. I live in Glenwild. I've lived in Maricopa for almost 10 years. I used to live in Rancho Mirage, which is out there by Tortosa, and I actually walked home from Leading Edge to Rancho Mirage when I was a teacher because I only had 1 car and my husband drove to Chandler. If this was a service, I would have used it, and I know there's students that walk in from Rancho Mirage, Tortosa, Sorrento, all that area, which is exploding right now. They walk on Honeycutt, which is super dangerous, into the schools that don't have buses. If there is any way that you guys could expand the route to include Rancho Mirage, Tortosa, Sorrento, and even start at 7 so that some of these students that have to walk because their parents have to go to work and they're 14, 15, they don't have a car, if they could get a ride, I'm sure that tons of people would use them. If you could get an extra bus, an extra driver, it would be used way more for the people in Tortosa because it costs less to live in Tortosa than it does to live in the city. The housing prices are vastly different because I've bought 2 houses here in Maricopa, so I've kind of paid attention. So if you could anyway figure out how to get Tortosa included, even though I live here in Glenwild now, I lived there for 6 years and I would walk it, taking an hour. It takes an hour from Rancho Mirage to Leading Edge. It's 3 miles. And I see students and children walking that dirt road all the time, and it's super dangerous. So if you could take that into consideration, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Staff has heard your comments, and maybe they'll take that into consideration. Anyone else like to address this issue? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And I need a call for a motion on this action from the commission.
To close? So moved.
So moved.
Wait, I didn't hear the motion.
The motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you...
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Yeah, it's very confusing
Approving
what
their
you're doing.
request to change the route. That's the agenda item.
And I guess
And the
that's...
driver.
So
You want to clarify,
I'm
Tony?
requesting to keep all of the stops, we're just reversing it to go a different way.
And I guess I'm not clear what the motion is.
And also to take off that 4 to 5 loop. Those are the two things I'm asking for tonight.
Well, I know what you're asking. I'm trying to clarify the motion
Ted,
from
you want
this
to
group.
clarify your motion, please?
I took the, whatever you had told me that we were going to try to do. I assume that you have it there.
Mr. Chair, if not, I'd like to offer a substitute motion to whatever his was going to be.
That's fine.
I would move that we temporarily approve the request for no more than 90 days. And at that time, we look for the data to do an appropriate schedule. We look at information, what that would take to add routes. And within the, again, we'll give approval right now because I don't like the forced overtime. But within 90 days, we get a report detailing the cost and what it would affect to add the route to Tortosa and also stop your overtime. I would move that so it takes you out of the bind you're in right now.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I think at this stage, our options are to approve, table, deny, and I think you have every right to approve, and then you can direct staff to provide everything you just detailed to come back to the committee and present those topics.
Well, I guess the question I would raise is this is put on as an agenda item. Shall hear a presentation and approve the Maricopa Express Transit update route. We can't amend that?
Mr. Chair, Committee Member Irving, so I think what's going on is you're trying to temporarily approve something for a period of 3 months that I'm not exactly sure, and I think it's not really clear what happens after that point. Does it revert back?
Well,
and I think it's just clear you can request that item to be brought back to
well,
you.
if we table it, my concern is that her immediate need is not being met. And I very much believe that I agree with her. We don't want to get into forced overtime, which could drive people out. So all I'm saying is it's a temporary approval for 90 days. If after 90 days they can't do anything, yeah, then we vote it up or down. I just want to give her some relief right now.
So could we just basically motion to approve and then have that data on the next committee, or transit committee hearing?
Yeah, well, the only problem is this is permanently. And I really want to support what she's doing, but not permanently. And again, I see no commitment after 90 days. In other words, after 90 days, if it comes back, we can't do any of it, yeah, then we have to vote it up and down as permanent. So other than that, I would vote no, and I hate to do that because it doesn't give her relief. If we table it, it doesn't give her relief. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'd like to comment on Commissioner Irvin's recommendation. I would be more inclined to table it because I think they can kind of temporarily work through it, what they got right now, for the next 90 days, and then the recommendation for them to come back after they can do whatever study they can. For example, if you can go back within 90 days and gather the data from your early winter, light spring ridership, bring that together with any surveys you can conduct, whether it's through the website or through live rides, gather all that up within 90 days or sooner, and maybe we can have a special meeting to address that one issue. And at that point, we can determine what plan do we implement going forward.
Are you making a motion to table?
Yes.
Fine, that oversees my motion, so we vote it up or down.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Irving, I think I'm just trying to make this.
For the attorney.
Go ahead.
As it's presented, the changes are temporary or permanent, or the way it is now, they'd be permanent. Do we have the authority to table this? And then if we do table it, will she be able to make those changes without our approval?
Committee Member Hughes, that's correct. There is no authority for her to make the changes to the route without approval from this body. my point to Committee Member Irving's point, I think the more proper way would be the motion to approve and then direct staff after that to put this exact agenda item back on 90 days, 180 days, whatever that proper period is, for discussion and action on possibly reverting back to the previous route.
I will only agree to that if you agree to editorially take out the word permanent.
Could they approve changing the route in the reverse direction and not approve?
Oh, that's a different issue. We're just dealing with the first one first. It's all one?
That is what I'm asking for. Like, I would want to start that immediately.
Again, to me, it can be the same thing. I understand what you're saying is I'm just objecting to the word permanent, because if we vote for permanent, why wait for 90 days? We've already made it permanent. So I think we all want to accomplish the same thing. I have no problem with council says, as long as it takes out the word permanent.
Can we amend a document and submit it? In other words, instead of using the word permanent, we put it temporary and remove the word permanent.
That's what I asked to do originally.
By directing staff to put it back on the agenda, you're putting the permanency back in question again. So you can make the change to revert back to this one at a later date. It is permanent until it is amended by this committee. My apologies.
I really take question with that interpretation. If we pass a motion that says it is permanent, it is permanent. We would then have to come back, reopen, revisit the motion we pass, and vote on that. So according to Roberts, it's very clear. A motion to make it permanent is permanent.
And respectfully, this commission and the city follows Robert's Rules of Order, a loose interpretation. And what I'm trying to say is, once it has been approved, this map will be in place and Tony and the city can operate under that. If you direct staff to put that map back up for debate and for action, if the modification to that map means reverting back to the current map that we know today, you can make that change.
So Nick,
if you would like to strike the word permanent, you can include that in your motion. What I'm not comfortable with is saying it is approved for 90 days.
No problem. I would then amend my motion to say that, what word would you like me to use? Temporary? I have no problem with removing the 90 days. I was trying to give you some lead time to get the data we've all asked for. I have no problem with taking out the 90 days.
I think the motion is to approve as presented and then direct staff to put this item back on the agenda 90 days from now.
I will not support that motion. Again, my motion's on the floor. I would move the motion I made up or down, then we go back and start all over again.
before I call for a vote, I just want to make sure I understand. Before we call for a vote or a second, it's either going to approve, deny, or die of a second, is what I'm feeling right now.
There's been a motion. If there's a second, then you'd have further discussion on that motion, and then there would be a vote on.
Right. We have a motion on the floor. Would you repeat it one more time, Jim, please?
All right. To make it clear, I would move that we support the change of route, period. And the motion does not include 90 days. The motion does not include the word permanent.
Second.
Do we have a second? Commissioner LaFalle, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chair, Mr. Chair, if I might, can you request a roll call vote?
You need a roll call.
Roll call vote? Okay, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Juarez?
No.
Commissioner Singleton?
No.
Vice Chair Robertson?
Aye.
Chair Yocum,
No.
Commissioner Irving,
Aye.
Commissioner LaFalle, Commissioner Hughes.
Motion passed.
Motion
carries. Thanks for the roll call. I almost blew that one.
You're doing great.
If there's no other items on the agenda for the Transit Advisory Committee, we'll close the Transit Advisory Committee meeting at low battery, 6:33. Okay. Going to call to order the City of Maricopa Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, regular meeting, Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 6:33 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Juarez,
Here.
Commissioner Singleton,
Here.
Vice Chair Robertson,
Here.
Chair Yocum,
Here.
Commissioner Irving,
Here.
Commissioner LaFalle,
Here.
Commissioner Hughes,
Here.
Vice Chair Robertson, we have a quorum.
Thank you. That moves us to the call to the public. If you wish to please speak, please complete a speaker card and submit it to the chairman prior to the start of the meeting. The procedure to follow if you address the commission are as follows. The commission requests that you express your ideas in 3 minutes or less and refrain from any personal attacks or derogatory statements about any city employee, fellow citizen, or anyone else, whether in the audience or not. The chairman will limit discussions whenever he deems the action appropriate to the proper conduct of the meeting. I do have 2 speaker cards that we will call upon for the specific agenda items when we get to them. Is there any general call to the public? Anybody wants to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Come forward again, please. And Brittany Pizzola.
Yes, thank you. Also on your agenda, it says 5 minutes instead of 3 minutes. I just wanted to let you know there's a discrepancy. I am wanting to speak again on the speed limit of Porter. Again, I spoke about this several times last year. It's 45 between where Honeycutt is to Adams Way. And there are 3 schools and a park on there, not to mention a high school that's farther set back. And people go blowing through there at 50, 55. I walk my students to school, and it's very dangerous. There was actually a student hit like 3 or 4 months ago trying to use a crosswalk, and somebody ran them over. And that's not the first time that somebody has been ran over in the area. There was a kid hit about a year ago trying to cross Porter on Honeycutt right there because it's 45. I know that there's an issue with putting a school zone like over on Honeycutt down that way. We've discussed that, and that's an issue, but something needs to be done. I don't understand why a public school gets 35 miles an hour, but a preschool, 2 charter schools, and a park that is constantly full from October to April doesn't have 35. And that crossing light, it's also dangerous. People blow through there. They see the lights flashing. They don't stop. They just blow through there. I see kids almost get hit every single day. I would like to see the speed limit changed to 35 on that section, and I would also like to see the crossing light changed. So instead of it saying, because it says, proceed with caution when the light is blinking, and it doesn't need to be that way. My parents have the same sort of crossing light in Globe. It turns red, and it remains red until everybody is out of the crosswalk. There's no, you can proceed with caution if you want to. And Globe is only 8,000 people. We have 75,000 people, and that's a main thoroughfare for people going to Walmart. There's the brand new apartments there, so it's going to be more people driving on Porter. We have a brand new shopping center and a church going in right at the corner by Circle K, so we're going to have even more traffic turning in and out. So we need to have the speed limit slower so that there's not people trying to run into each other. It's hard to get out of that area with the Circle K. I mean, it's just a dangerous area, and I'm worried about the students, and I'm worried about the influx of people. So if you could take that in consideration, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We might just suggest that you take that concern to the city council meeting. We're glad to hear it, but that's really out of our purview for this commission with the city council meeting. And usually the police chief is there at those meetings. So maybe Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, oops, time is up. That moves us to item 4.1, approval of minutes from June 29, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approve as submitted.
Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Singleton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Takes us to our regular agenda items. Item 5.1, DRP 2309. I do have 2 speaker cards on that. We'll hear a presentation from Planning and Zoning Commission, or Planning and Zoning, Alexander Bosworth, planner. Take it away, Alex.
Good evening, Chair Yoakum, Vice Chair Robertson, members of the Commission. I'm Alexander Bosworth, one of the planners here with the City of Maricopa. And tonight, I'm presenting an informational item for a multifamily project, case number DRP 23-09. The applicant is Lincoln Avenue Capital for a site on the southwest corner of Honeycutt Road and North Gunsmoke Road for approximately 25 acres. And I want to preface this by stating that this site may look familiar to some of you on the Commission. Was host of an approved site plan about 2020, 2021 for a similar bungalow-style development. This site, very similar to the previously approved plan, involves 271 for-rent cottages or bungalows in a 2 to 3 bedroom unit mix, private yards in each unit ranging from 900 square feet to around 1,200 square feet per unit. The primary access is from North Gunsmoke Road on that northeast entrance. Secondary entrances are shown, or exit onlys are shown on Gunsmoke Road on the southeast and on Whisker Road on the west-hand side. 531 parking spaces are provided as the applicant is requesting a 20% reduction for the Sustainable Development Incentive Program as part of our code. And the applicant is required to have 20% of the site be open space, and they show various centralized amenities such as a clubhouse, pool, a central paseo area with ramadas, a playground, various walking paths, etc. And here's the open space plan. Just for reference, the light green there is more of the amenitized areas. Again, with those ramadas, with those paseos, the wider open spaces that are more usable for the public. For the elevations, the applicant has provided a clubhouse elevation, as shown above, with a mix of colors and materials. For the units, the applicant is providing single unit buildings as well as duplex buildings. There are 6 floor plans. If I understood correctly, it's 1 elevation per plan, though I could be incorrect on my interpretation of the elevations as provided by the applicant at this moment. As you can see, front elevations there, mix of colors and materials to provide a good range of diversity for the look of the buildings themselves. And the other 2 elevations are shown above. One of them is a 2-story concept, just to give a variation in the height of the buildings as well. The overall design of the project, staff has analyzed, will enhance the appearance of the general area and the surrounding natural and built environment. The proposal is appropriate to the function of the project and provides a suitable environment for all the residents that would be living in such proposed development. The elevations and color schemes appear well integrated and complementary, and the applicant will be required to meet all the elements outlined in Section 18 of the zoning ordinance prior to administrative approval. In terms of public outreach, the applicant has conducted the required notification methods, including notification letters sent out to all property owners within 600 feet, as well as a sign posted very visibly along Honeycutt Road, both on August 8th. And staff has not received any written communication from the public, though I did receive a couple calls just for general information for the site. And that concludes my presentation tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the Commission?
Yeah.
Go ahead, James.
On the memo, and B, it says half street improvement are required from Gunsmoke to Whisker. Please tell me how you're going to pave half a road. Who's going to pave the other half?
Commissioner Irving, so that comment there was from the city engineer. We do require half-street improvements for every project.
Okay.
In this case, he is opting for an upfront improvement as opposed to cash in lieu.
Okay, so they would pave half the road, right?
They're required to do their half of the street, correct?
And what happens to the other half of the road?
If I'm not mistaken, Rick, the other half of the road would be the responsibility of the adjacent property owner on that side, once development comes in at its time.
And what if development doesn't? I guess I'm foreseeing putting in 200 and some odd units with half a road, because you can't guarantee that there will be a developer for the other half, right? Am I reading that right?
Commissioner Irving, yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Alex, if I might interject here, Commissioner, Chairman, sir, the road is still there. They'll improve their half to the center line. So the other half of the center line out is still there.
But it's a dirt road.
In this case,
It's a very bumpy dirt road.
I think it'd be a really good question, and I can certainly get back to you on there. It may be an instance where we do a cash in lieu payment, where we may not have the ability to construct the entire road at this time, so we'll leave as is and come back at a later time and pave it all at once. I don't know exactly, and I can't recall the certain circumstances in this instance. So what I would need to do is contact a city engineer and get back with you on that. But I can assure you that in no circumstance are we going to create a system or an environment in which half the people are driving on a paved road and the other half are on a dirt road.
I couldn't agree more, and that's my question, because that's what this does.
It's a valid question, very valid question.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that I get that correct. So when I get in the office tomorrow morning, I'll consult with Eduardo, our city engineer, commissioners, and I'll be happy to send you an email with the response to that.
Thank you, Commissioner Irvin.
Thank
you
you.
for the explanation, Rick. Just a point of order or clarification. This is for discussion only. We do not vote on this.
Right.
But we're getting
We
our
know
points
that.
out. Commissioner LaFalle?
Thank you. My question is in regard to the cash in lieu. Is that and this is just for clarification, is the cash in lieu taking into account inflation? Because we have the situation now where materials and supplies continue to increase in price. So when we have the cash in lieu in place, say for now, but development isn't until the future, is there a system that's in place to account for that?
Commissioner LaFalle, great question. To my understanding, cash in lieu option does not take into account inflation, which is why the city does prefer upfront improvements. Though I could be mistaken, so I will check with the city engineer tomorrow morning.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
That's okay.
I did attempt to call.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah, thank you. So let me ask you a question. Does the property line run down the middle of that road or something? Why is it, if that's the case, I understand the predicament, but in your development agreement, can you not propose to the developer that he buy that portion of land to put that road in? And that would be my suggestion to the developer, and so that this petition would be clean when it comes back to this committee.
Commissioner Hughes, great question. When the original site was approved on this parcel, they were required to make their half-street dedications along their half of the right-of-ways, and they are required to make the improvements on those dedications.
Commissioner Yocum?
You're carrying with Ms. LaFaul's comment on the cash in lieu of payment. I had the same concern about let's say all of that is $50,000 today, and it doesn't get done for 4 or 5 years, and now it's $90,000. Where does that other $40,000 come from? That's one of my concerns. And the other is, who gets that cash and what do they do with it? Where does that cash in hand payment go?
Bill volunteers.
Chair Yoakum, great question, which I do not know the answer to, which I will check with the city engineer first thing tomorrow, and we'll go ahead and send an email out to follow up, if that's all right with you.
Okay.
Commissioner Singleton?
So I had a question mainly on the road. I think it's Whisker. So the church that's currently going there wasn't necessarily required for improving that road necessarily. I believe they're just leaving it as is, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you've ever driven by while that school is being either drop off or pick up. And I know it's kind of outside the scope of this, but it would be nice to see that improved, drastically, just because that street does get a lot of traffic, and just improving half of that street isn't much of an improvement when you have 30 plus cars lined up. But I was glad to hear that it's an exit only from that development, because I could imagine the amount of parents that would try to park in that development. So I guess that leads me to the second question. Is this gated, or how are they controlling that flow of traffic?
Commissioner Singleton, on the site plan, they did show gates on each of the entrances. So my interpretation is that it will be gated. And to follow up on the church side, they were required to do their half-street improvements along Whisker Road. And right now, we're working on their roadway dedications.
Any further discussion from the commission? Alex, I just had one question on the second exit only. Is that a full-time usable exit or only for emergencies? Is it an emergency exit, or is it a regular daily use exit to get out?
So the site plan, when I reviewed the site plan, it really only said exit only access. They did not specify if it was just for, let's say, fire or emergency services or residents wishing to exit on that side, which we'll clarify with the applicant.
Okay, yes, that needs to be clarified, because we do have another subdivision in the city that has a similar problem where a gate is locked and it's supposed to be an emergency exit, but that's a different story.
And carrying that one step further with the secondary from Whisker, I had some questions which you just answered, but we also have an exit only along Gunsmoke, and it's about 1,000 feet south of Honeycutt. So we actually have 2 ways in and 3 ways out.
If there's no further discussion, we'll open up the public hearing, and we'll call Randy Cooper. Take it away, Randy.
Hey, Randy.
Hi.
Gentlemen.
Hi, Randy.
Pleased to be in front of y'all. I received a letter from these folks, since I'm within 600 feet. And where I'm at now, do you have screens that you can see that? So
yeah.
Okay. So I see those 2 white notches on 7 Ranch Road? Those are houses. And so this portion, this proposed thing, goes around those 2 houses. I am directly south of where they say 7 Ranch Road on this map. I go from Whisker to halfway between Whisker and Gunsmoke. So I go right below there. So my thing today, what I propose to speak about, and thanks for clarifying today, I was told that it's really more the privy of the city engineer, easements and such, setbacks. But now, I didn't see this map until just now. This is called multifamily now. Didn't this already go through as a tiny home community? So somebody else bought it and we're redoing it? Is that what I'm seeing? No, but it wasn't it started with a G, Gray Smoke or something? Didn't we already go through this? They already went through. Okay, so we're
No,
re-going.
sir, it was a Hancock Communities.
Hancock,
Yes. That was already.
Thank you.
but
Right.
it was purchased from the Hancock communities. They made some changes to the plan which required to come back through
Right.
this.
Okay, so
Lincoln
we're
brought it.
revisiting what we've seen, and then to answer
is
your,
correct.
and then just to kind of answer what you folks are talking about, the way I saw the map previously was inlet on Gunsmoke, outlet on Whisker, 24 hours a day, all day long. I feel qualified to speak on this not only because I'm the landowner, I'm also environmental engineer from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I'm also a professional engineer registered in the state of Arizona under the discipline of environmental engineering. It's kind of like civil, but a little more life science. And for 20 years. I also helped put myself through college as a tradesman building, so I built a gazillion homes. And so I understand building and love it. And so I'm for this project. However, I'm told, attorney are you? I'm told I'm landlocked. Somebody wanted to buy my property and they said, we say you're landlocked, so it's about easements. Do those easements still stand? Because right next to my property, between those two white squares, it says, if you go on to Pinal County, owned by City of Maricopa. And that also goes for the perimeter, basically. And it's a setback. And there, that's what we get to the half road, right? Am I correct? Because basically this development is giving. So have they taken back that gift because we have a new owner? Or it sounds like they're still giving the half road, but I thought that Maricopa already owns it. So there's nothing to give or money, or it's already done previously, if I understand correctly. And then, so if I'm landlocked, then I'm supposed to give my half, but then those are 1.25, I have two properties that are 1.25 acre. They're contiguous next to each other the long way. That's de minimis for a septic. So if I give, or even if I sell, which I'm not going to give because I'm not a big developer, but if I were to sell a portion of my property, I have now made it void for a home, right? Because it's under 1.25 acres. So the city of Maricopa has kind of taken in what used to be the Seven Ranches Road Water Company. So now I pay my bill to Maricopa, city of Maricopa. They'll take my cash to get water, but I can't drive. Oh, I'm over. I'm sorry. I can't drive into my place. So it's just food for thought. Engineer works, council works, you folks work, but maybe everyone should work together and be aware of all these things. So that's my comment. I don't want to go over time. I guess I am already. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Folks, ma'am. Folks, good to see y'all. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Next, we have Brittany Pisola. Take it away, Brittany.
So I had a couple questions. How big are those yards going to be?
Yards, I believe they're required to be, the code requires a minimum of 6 foot width, but they're going over that.
Okay.
They're pretty good size.
So they're going to be bigger than the yards that are over here by Walmart and the little small houses? Because those look really tiny.
I'm not sure which ones.
The orange ones. The orange bungalows over here on
Alex, may I interject?
Bolin and
So it says in here that they're 10 foot by 35 foot.
Okay.
And in some cases 15 or 20 by 35 foot.
Thank you. Where will the two-story homes be as opposed to the one-story homes? Does anybody know?
They'll be sprinkled throughout the community.
Okay.
As shown here.
Which ones are the two-story?
I believe they're the dark blue ones.
The dark blue?
I could be incorrect.
Or maybe the orange ones? Okay, because I live where the 7 is to the right of that. I can see his house from my bedroom window. And then also I want to address the roads. So like I said, I walk my son to Pathway, which is to the left of Whisker Road. But in the afternoon, it's 115, so I drive to pick him up. I can't make a left onto Porter because it's dangerous. So I have to go out Whisker Road. So the flow of traffic for Pathway is they have to come in Whisker Road and exit either back out Whisker Road or exit right onto Porter. So I go out Whisker Road so I can make a right to go to Gunsmoke and then enter into Glenwild. It's very narrow through there. It's not even wide enough for 2 lanes. And I have people that are trying to get past the drive line, because the drive line takes up going that direction into the school. I have people driving on the dirt road while I'm trying to go out, trying to get to their houses, because there's several little houses over there. So it needs to be wider than just that little, it's not even 2 lane right now. So I don't know if the school needs to take care of that or if the church or whoever on that side. And then to address Gunsmoke, it's dirt and it's owned by the storage shed, the church, and then there's just people that live there. I don't think they can afford to widen that road, so we're gonna end up with half a road that people can come in and out on, so they're gonna drive in on a paved road to get into Gunsmoke, but they're gonna have to, if they turn left, they're gonna have to drive out on a dirt road. That doesn't make any sense to me. That one also needs to be widened as well, and it's used not only by me, it's used by people trying to get to, what's the name of that school? Sequoia Pathway, no, the other one, the high school. By the Heritage, thank you. People go in on Gunsmoke to get to the parking lot behind the church, and people park there for picking up for Heritage. So there's a lot of traffic at 8 and at 3, and it needs to be paved. Also for the safety of the kids, for the ease of the people living there. I wouldn't want to live there if I had to drive on a half-done road. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to approach the podium and discuss this item?
I'll go again.
It may cost you. Okay, we'll close the public hearing comments, and that takes care of our speaker cards. No further discussion? Anything else from the commission for Alex or staff? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Planning Commission update on DRP 22-30 by Derek Scherer, Planner 2 with the City of Maricopa. Take it away, Derek.
Thank you, Chair Yoakum. Members of the Commission, Derek Scherer with the Planning Department, here to present the next item. This is EVR at San Travasa. This is another multifamily build-to-rent cottage product. This site is located on White and Parker Road, just the northwest of Farrell Road. It's approximately 20 developable acres with 24 gross acres. About 4 acres are taken out with the development of the new Iron Point or extension of Iron Point Road that I'll show you in a moment. So this development is gross 24 acres with 186 residential units. The units will consist of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. Some of them are standalone 1-bedroom little cottages. The interior loop road that you see, the units facing that will have attached garages. They can either be a standalone single with an attached garage or a double with the garage in the middle between them. There's going to be private yards for each unit. Those yards range from a minimum of 10 feet in depth to 15, and some of them have about 20 to 30 feet when it's in the funky little corner. The 1-bedroom units, about 800 square feet, 3-bedroom units getting up to about 1,500 square feet. There's going to be 402 parking spaces provided. This is over the city's required amount. This rounds out to about 2.12 spaces per unit. The ones that have the garages, they have 2 spaces. They have their garage space inside, then they have right in front of their garage 18 feet before getting to the sidewalk. So there'll be 2 dedicated just for those garage units. The parking lots then are for the ones off the road and overflow guest parking. With this development, it's only required 15% open space. It's part of the San Travasa PAD, which covers the whole area from CAC all the way south. Of this 15%, they're providing, let's see, about 4.68 acres, which exceeds that 15%. For the total open space, 1.88 acres is going to be active programmed amenitized open space. You can see this a little better here on the landscape plan. So the centrally located amenity area, pool, clubhouse, turf game courts, a rather large dog park, and then some other turf areas interspersed throughout the community for the general public or the residents for use in addition to their private open space in their backyards. Here we have a couple examples of the different elevations. There's 8 different elevations across 4 building styles. They're all one-story buildings. And they range with their color patterns and then the little details on the windows and the roof lines. Some of the units have sort of that extra pop out on the second story, coming off the roof. Not the second story, but sort of just a pop out to get rid of that monotony of the same roof lines going across all of the units. Right at top in the example I'm showing, that is the clubhouse. That is right when you pull into the site. The site is accessed from White and Parker Road onto Iron Point Road, which this developer is responsible for the half-street improvement on that Iron Point, which means, just clarification, half-street improvements means, say you have a 50-foot right-of-way. Your half of it is 25 feet. You're not just building one lane going one way and then it's dirt on the other. You're building 2 lanes on that half side. So the actual lanes are a little narrower. They'll be about maybe 10 feet. It depends on what the engineering standard manual says for the minimum. Then when it expands, then it'll be the wider lane of like 12 feet on each side, or if it needs multiple lanes going north-south, then the emergency pull-off lane or a bike lane or something like that. But when it's a half street, it's 2-way traffic on pavement with a double yellow line going down it, but it is narrower than what it really should be. They'll be developing Iron Point Road from White and Parker all the way to their entrance. On White and Parker, it's already developed out for them. As development around occurs, this site's basically going to have 4 frontages. It'll be on the east side, the north side, that west side, and then that southwest side. The very flat on the bottom will be for another development later on. And they've taken into consideration for that future development coming around, but because this is the only development happening now, that's only the development of Iron Point Road is only going to their entrance. Overall, staff has looked at this and it meets everything in their San Travasa PAD and then in our zoning ordinance for approval. But this came in at the end of last year, and sorry that this is the first time you're seeing this as an informational item. It is one of those submittals that was in that gap period of where they were approved by this commission to where the text amendment occurred, where it's only an informational item. The reviews have gone back and forth through a couple iterations. We got to the point where we're very close to an approval on the staff level, and it was like, we need to get this in front of the commission so they can take a look at it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Questions from commissioners? Commissioner LaFalle.
First, I appreciate the design of the proposed development. I do have a question regarding the parking, because it's showing that the parking spaces exceed what's required. What I've noticed is that we'll receive the presentation on the initial application and there's an abundance, but then there's a return to say, oh, we want to reduce it down. And I want to know if that discussion takes place with the applicant to, I don't want to say ensure, but to just confirm that it's not just being presented as this great project and then it's going to be reduced down later. That was one. And then secondly, on the usable open space, there's that drainage canal. Could you clarify for me, because I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, how much of the open space does that drainage canal consist of? Is it 1.88 acres? Or, because it says 8.4 acres are open space. but of that, how much is the drainage canal?
Chair Yocum, Commissioner LaFell, if we can go back, I'll start with the
Parking?
the parking.
Okay.
Yeah, since this was first submitted to planning for the DRP review, we've gone through it with the applicant on the parking and providing the parking. Not a lot of these products that we've had come before us have the attached garages, and discussing with them that the unit, the garage space, but then also the driveway space, that's included in the count, and then the actual parking lots and the parking spaces, and we've worked with them to make sure that they meet this for this type of development, and that it was located all throughout where it's accessible for any of the interior units. If you see sort of on the west side, that they had that access to that parking lot area. How it's used, you know, that it's up to the users. Hopefully people will not park there because they know that someone else needs to park there. For the open space with the drainage, did you mean the drainage channel along White and Parker Road on the east side of the property right there?
So it indicates that, let me go back here, bear with me, please. And I do want to mention while we're talking about the parking, I appreciate the boxes being checked for the EV area as well as the bicycles, because I think there were like 200 spaces for secure bicycle parking, so that's encouraging, you know, alternative modes of transportation in our city, so I do appreciate that as well. It shows, I think it was 8.4 acres, of which, and this is where I wanted the clarification,
If I
for
can,
the usable area.
if you can see here, for open space is basically all of this. The backyards are open space, the dog park, depending on the size and the width of this area where the paths are is open space. This drainage channel here is open space. That's on White and Parker. I'm sorry, I wish I could do it so you guys could see it on your screen.
But that's not
But
usable.
for usable open space, that means it's amenitized. So the 1.8 acres includes the pool area, the turf,
Yeah,
the
but then it goes
ball courts
here.
here, the dog park, the other space here that is amenitized with exercise equipment.
See right here,
The turf area down here, which is also a drainage basin, but also turfed and has exercise equipment, you know, the exercise paths that you walk on. The developer envisions sort of this ribbon walk around to be used by the residents, where then they'll stop, use the exercise equipment and sort of do their little exercise loop or the interior loop with the sidewalks, how it's all connected. And it does get a little confusing with the degrees of open space, usable open space, and then what that is.
Yeah, it's the definition of open space, like you said.
Yeah, okay. It was, because it had the 1.88, and so I was just trying to get a clear number.
Chair, Commissioner LaFalle, if I might help, I found the numbers you're referencing. So it's 8.4, 1.88, as Derek pointed out. The 0.7 is the drainage canal.
Okay.
That canal is 0.7 acres.
Thank you.
Commissioner Yocum.
I have a few comments. I'm very impressed with this entire project, and there's some areas that I would like to mention that add to that. The parking, it's refreshing to see that we do have someone who is going to be offering us more parking spaces than is required by the zoning code. From what I'm reading here, we have 402 off-street parking spaces and 387 are required. And we haven't been seeing too much of that lately. We also have 83 enclosed private garages, and there is someone out there in the audience who will be glad to hear that 9 of these facilities are ADA approved and equipped. There are 21 garage parking spaces that will include 50 amp EV charging connections. And the required is 5%, and that gives us 9%. Bicycle parking is provided in every unit as well as 200 at the clubhouse. And I don't think I've ever seen that before. All in all, the amenities, clubhouse, fitness center, bocce ball, kitchen, and all I can ask is what happened to the pickleball courts. And that's pretty much it for me. An outstanding project, it really is.
Thank you, Commissioner Yocum. Commissioner Hughes?
Thank you. I just want to, these are two beautiful developments that you've brought to this committee. One other committee member that has asked for this in the past, and over a year ago, I understand, and hasn't received it. So I'm going tonight ask the city manager, along with the director of zoning, to give this committee within 30 days a report on where the city of Maricopa is at regarding roads compared to new building at the present rate of growth. We need that. With these kind of developments coming in, this committee needs that kind of information, or at least I do, I know for sure, because the constituents out there are really concerned that we're overbuilding for our infrastructure. I think it's important to keep this community informed that maybe that isn't so, but I have no proof or written proof of that. And so I'd appreciate within 30 days before these two developments come back to us, that we have something in writing so we could see where we're really at and we can share it with the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Anyone else? James?
Just confirming, so they'll probably be improving White and Parker and then Iron Point, because that doesn't currently exist, but currently not touching Farrell at all, right?
No, it does, the site doesn't go south enough, and let me see.
Yeah,
you can see on the overall, there is, that highlighted yellow box is a little oversized. There is a space between this site and Farrell Road.
And then how does this play into the development that'll be east of White and Parker as well? Because I believe that is also going to be multifamily and potentially commercial offices and stuff like that off of Farrell. So I'm just hoping, you know, traffic-wise, as Commissioner Hughes mentioned, hope that's kind of like taken into account here, because I think it's 2 or 3 multifamilies that'll be on east of White Parker, plus this one. That area can get really congested really quickly. Yeah.
Yes, Chairman Yocum, Commissioner Singleton. The development across the street, we haven't had any, they came through the process. I don't know where it stands. It's either on pause or they're figuring it out. But with all of these projects that come in, the TIAs that are part of the requirement, they take into account all of this. What is that maximum development? What is that density that they're allowed? They calculate that in and then plug that in to see what the requirements are for the capacity of the road, what improvements, whether signalization or anything like that needs to get included.
I just have one comment, Derek, for clarification. I think I heard you say early on in the total count of parking spaces, you counted the garage and at the space in front of the garage up to the sidewalk. So you got 2 spaces for that house.
Correct.
Correct? So that gets piled on to the total number of spaces, even though it's not available to anybody else other than that homeowner or renter.
Correct, yes.
Isn't that kind of cooking the books a little bit to get the number up?
In a manner, it can be, but the same with like a single-family development. With the garages, that's for them. The rest of the parking, it's open for everybody else.
Can they rent out their driveway if they want to?
So, I'm sorry. If they had 3 cars, they would be parking one or in the parking lot, but
it just seems like the total number, we gave them kudos for having more than normal, but yet you're given 2 to some houses, which cooks the books a little bit. Just a comment. Any other further discussion? No further discussion. We'll close this item. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure, maybe I missed it earlier. Did you ask if there's anyone from the public that wanted to speak on the item?
My apologies. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this? Come on up. Why didn't you have a tomato?
No, that's fine.
I apologize. Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is a question or a comment. In just tonight's meeting, we're talking about 450 additional
Could you state your name,
homes.
please?
Oh, Charlene Dodson.
Thank you.
We're talking about 450 additional homes. All the meetings that my husband and I've been to, we hear all these new proposals for housing and whether that's single-family homes or apartments. What I don't hear any discussion about is schools. So where do all these kids that we now have all these homes and apartments for, where do they go to school? Where will that happen? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
With the call to the public, I don't know if we're really, I'm sorry, in the spirit of the call to the public, I don't know whether we're really staying in the lane that we should be in flirting with perhaps discussing things that are not on the agenda. No, you cannot say
your
what you want.
comments are always welcome, and we thank you for that. Okay, we will close that item for a second time. One more. Oh, come on up.
Of the parking spaces that aren't assigned because they're not a garage, are they going to be assigned to the houses? So like, say there's 200 spaces left over, not including the garages, are they going to be assigned, like, this person gets at least one assigned spot so they know they're going to have a place to park? Okay, thank you. Because if I was going to live there, I'd want to know I'd have a place for my car if I didn't have a garage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pasola. All right, we'll close this item for a third time. That takes us to item number 6, report from commission or staff. Take it away, Rick.
Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the commission, so much for a simple meeting tonight, huh? Yeah, great discussion. You know, it's been a while since we had a meeting, and it sure felt good to get the feet wet again and engage in debate. I think it brings out the best in everybody. So I'd like to talk a little bit about a couple of upcoming meetings, and just want to point out September 11th meeting right now. We do not have anything on the agenda. The deadline for the advertising portion of that was within the next couple of days. I'm anticipating that we will not have a meeting on September 11th. However, we are having an important meeting on September 25th, and that'll be an off-site meeting at the library at 6 o'clock. If you remember, in a TAC review we sent out to you all several weeks ago, the general plan amendment, the two majors that we have before you this evening, first requirement of that is an off-site meeting. Those are coming up on September 25th. So just wanted to put you on notice for that. We will, as our advertisements are going out, we're advertising the library. We'll post at the library. We'll also post outside the courthouse. And certainly any mailing or newspaper or site posting that we have going out will show that as well. September 6th through 8 is the Arizona Planning Conference. Registration is set. Those of you that are participating in that, thank you very much. Just wanted to point out travel arrangements are still being worked out, but I feel confident that we're going to have those settled here in the next day or two, and I'll get with y'all individually, and we'll go from there. Just again, my thanks to Commissioner Robertson. Sir, I thought you did an excellent job this evening for getting your feet wet in the unlikely event somewhere down the road you might have to do that. Chairman Yocum, big thumbs up for just giving up the podium tonight and the gavel and allowing that to happen. We met earlier today, and I'd mentioned in my meeting with Commissioner Robertson and Yocum that we have a line of communication in this Planning Commission that we really haven't had in quite a while, and I just want to say thank you. Keep the emails coming, keep the telephone calls coming, and you know, we appreciate very much working with you. And with that, I would say have a safe and happy holiday coming up, and look forward to seeing y'all on the 25th. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Anything further from the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Adjourn, approved, in favor? All right. We are adjourned.